Baby's finally here, but as a first-time dad, I was told to prepare for the worst. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turns out quite a lot. For starters, we had to wait 3 whole hours for our baby to be born after being in labor. The nurses kept telling us, "You're doing great. You're almost there." But I was getting really worried because they kept repeating this over and over again. And my wife was in a lot of pain. I asked them, can someone please tell me how much longer this is gonna take? And they're all, "You're almost there. You're doing great." But we were in active labor for 12 hours, so I knew we weren't almost there anywhere. And then finally, our baby girl was born. But then they took her away. They did some tests, and I wasn't allowed to see any of that. I was just standing there awkwardly, while my wife was being stitched up with absolutely no pain medication because apparently she rejected an No, I do want to know if she rejected it. Or if they just did on Asuka. Or they were trying to get her to push harder and faster. But either way, I wasn't allowed to be a part of that. And then when they brought the baby back to us, I got to hold her for maybe 2 seconds before they took her away again. And then they put her in a little bassinet next to our bed. But then they also put up this big clear thing around her so we could untouch her or anything. And they said that we weren't allowed to do anything until the pediatrician came in. So I was sitting there waiting for the pediatrician to arrive. I was literally sitting there like a weirdo, just staring at my own daughter behind the glass. It was probably 30 minutes. Then, finally, the pediatrician came in and checked all her vitals and stuff, and he didn't even tell us anything. He just wrote down numbers on a clipboard and made faces at us. I was like, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Oh, it means she's healthy." Then he left and they took the clear thing off. And then we finally got to hold her. Now, I'm no expert, but something didn't seem right. Is it normal for a baby's head to be completely bald? I remember in the hospital, they were like, "Oh, do you want to take a picture for the hospital ID bracelet?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But then later on, I realized they probably wanted a picture of her head to match the size and shape of the head that was balding. I don't know. Also, they gave her a pacifier right away. But then they also told us to avoid giving her the pacifier because it would interfere with breastfeeding. They also told us that we should unpick her up too much because we despoil her and make her too attached to us. But then when she started crying, they said that we should pick her up and rock her to sleep because that would soothe her. So I was like, what the heck? Make up your mind! Then at one point I was rocking her and she fell asleep. And then they told me to lay her down. And I was like, but she just fell asleep. And they were like, we need to let her get some uninterrupted sleep. And I was like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do that without spoiling her? And they were like, oh, you can't. I love my daughter more than anything in the world. But as a new parent, I have to say the hospital definitely dropped the ball. I feel like we went from being awkward strangers to being overwhelmed parents without any guidance whatsoever.